Hey there, Deb.
Hey there.
Hey, kiddo. So it's been since August is the last time I saw you, right?
I hope so.
You hope
But if
so.
I've seen you since then, I don't know.
Okay, we'll work on that memory. I don't think there's anything to remember. But anyway, so what do you
Yeah,
think?
you had a nice swim.
Oh, that's right. I did.
It
The water
actually
could have
was
been
a
a
great.
little deeper. It was a little weedy.
Yeah, yeah, that's what Pat said.
I was forewarned. So what do you think of this idea, starting with your
I
brother?
I don't know what you're doing.
Like basically, I would like it came up with some conversation who I think it was sorry about, hey, could we have a political people who are involved in politics to see what their perspective of what's going on in the world and here's Murph. I'm going to add him. That's about it. It's pretty simple. It's not real complicated, but it's to connect
Well,
with.
are you going to get in? Is anybody going to zoom in? I mean, are we going to open it up to the whole Hanover High alumni group?
We are, but as much as we open it up, very few people show up. And everybody's
Yeah.
got their reasons for not doing it. So I see this, and yeah, so the answer is yes to that, always. Um, but I see this
Well,
more as kind of a playlist of interviews. Hey, Murph,
How you doing?
you're doing pretty well. So what's the weather like in Old Lyme? In Lyme,
It's
sorry.
partly cloudy, was sunny this morning, but it's cool.
That's cool. Yeah,
Yep. I think we're going to get up to a day of 60 maybe, and then it's going to dip back down, and we're on a yo-yo here.
yeah. So
I'm
it is.
ready for the
So it is
sun.
with the Upper Valley, right? You get your heart broken on a weekly basis, whether it's waiting for spring.
Yep. Yep.
So, Murph, what do you think of this idea that I'm trying to build around kind of a spreadsheet of talking to people who have had their lives involved with politics, given the current situation?
How am I supposed to react? I like it.
exactly.
You like it? I
My point
figured. I
exactly.
figured. What was funny, Murph, is that so you gave me this list. It was like, boom, here's the list of people you might want to consider. So then I contacted Deb first, saying, hey, I was thinking about contacting your brother for that, what I had already told you. And then he came out with almost the same list. He said, that's fine, we can talk, but have you thought about all these other people? And I think that besides it being interesting, I think there's kind of a deeper level of connecting, and then it's in what's going on in the world.
Yep. There are lots of perspectives that you can take in addition to people who are actually involved in the electing to politics. You can get into lobby groups, you can get into interest groups. How do you see it from your particular business or your skill, your craft, whatever it happens
Hmm.
to be? So if you're still interested, this is a good place to start. And if it gets response, there's lots of other things because it is a crucial thing in our life today.
I agree.
I really think it's going to be important to market it to the whole Hanover High alumni group because it's not fair to the people who you're interviewing if, three people show up.
I agree. I agree. So, your brother's about to join. So, do you have a method? And basically, my only method has been the class Facebook
So are,
group.
are you a member of the Hanover High alumni
I think so because
Facebook
I
page?
get. I think so because I get. It's.
So,
I think it
so
has
you
a.
just post it to that.
Oh, okay. Oh, there you go. Okay, then. Here's your brother coming in a second. Um, Well, I agree. That'd be great, Murph, to expand it to that because I think it's basically how to keep the conversation going, because I think that's necessary. Hey, Mike, how are you?
Can't hear you, buddy. Unmute, unmute. Not yet.
Can you help him, Deb?
He's the tech genius in the family.
Okay.
You're not unmuted, Mike. He's telling me to shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I think so. we're gonna have to leave it to you, Mike, and we'll do if we knew sign language, we'd include you. Can you hear us? Put one finger up. Okay.
You're
Um,
still muted.
yeah, you're still muted.
File version.
Any better?
Talk, Michael. We can't know if we hear you.
Well, how about now?
You're good.
Yeah,
We're
good. We
connected. We're
gotcha.
connected.
Uh,
That's right. Yeah.
I'm having trouble with the built-in microphone, and I've been trying to connect the AirPods, but sometimes
Yep.
it's easier than this.
Yep. Yep. Um, well, good, good. So, Mike, you're basically the inaugural person we want to talk to and starting this idea of talking about basically the people we'd like to interview. So it started with Deb's in my class of 75, but really it's opened it up to the school. Um, and so, I mean, the connection is obviously people who had to do with Hanover High and kind of like their intellectual genesis in high school. But also in the context of what's going on in the world, and so this is just kind of like a prequel to what we want to talk about. And anything's open, but it's you have this outstanding experience, you know, and kind of a ground zero. Granted, past decades, and everybody says it was different back then, but your perspective will be really interesting to listen to about what do you see is going on, and you can say if you were there now and but anyway, it's from your perspective, the world context, and what we have in common is Hanover High.
Roughly how big is this group usually when it meets?
Well, there's really, I say anytime on Sunday, and I would confirm to that, but it has been mostly this, but nothing's etched in stone.
No,
It's
I'm sorry. How many people do you usually have?
we we usually have, well, we've gone with smaller, basically people that we've known. This is the first time we're opening it up to a larger topic, larger people. So I suspect more. Um, it will probably exceed, I mean, this is a capacity of 40. I don't think we'll exceed that, but I'm hoping for around about 10, 5 to 10 on a regular basis and recorded and put together in a YouTube um, channel people can watch later.
I was encouraging him to post the whole thing to the Hanover High alumni group so anybody from any year could attend.
Right, right.
That
So
makes sense.
yeah, so you'll be speaking to all classes, those who want, and so that's pretty sizable group. I mean, it's interesting what's posted and comes up. So, what would you like to talk about? Given that, I mean, that's your really um, short intro, saying it can go anywhere, but it's also pretty critical. This isn't sort of um, this is not a superficial reason to get started. I think it's pretty important connection and what's going on.
I don't have any specific agenda, and hi, Bill. Good to see you. I think clearly we are in, uh, I don't want to say unprecedented because over the course of 200 years, all kinds of things have happened in the country, and 250 now. Uh, but they are relatively unprecedented in modern times of having a nation that is both as polarized as it currently is, and we've certainly had polarization before, but also where people have very different understandings of sort of the facts on the ground. In the past, they tended to disagree on what we should do forward or what we did in the past, but there were fundamental elements that they agreed on in terms of you know whether the Earth was flat or round. And now, large numbers of people who can't agree on things that are basic as is the Earth flat or round. And that I think has changed the whole level of discourse and um, the approach political life. It's more distressing than any I've seen, and grew up at the tail end of the civil rights era and the heart of the Vietnam War disputes. So there were certainly large differences then, but people still, with the exception of a small proportion of um, the population, accepted the reality that we had a government that its job was to govern, and that even if we didn't like the outcome of elections, we generally accept them and work for change in the next election. And now we're just trying to do everything.
Good. A couple of things, Mike. You're breaking in and out, so your connection
And whether that's the internet or
could be
uh,
earwax. Could be earwax.
let's see, I'm going to try plugging in a external microphone and see if that helps.
Yeah, that's what I'm using. So, so while you're doing that, Bill, what are you thinking about that in terms of because you have a both your perspectives are grand and
I don't know why it came into my head, but when we started today, I made a note to myself or to ourselves that I wonder what's happened to council moderators or council officers, and to what extent council made a impact on them, and to what extent they have gotten involved in politics because of involvement within the school, but also primarily because they were active in council.
mhm,
That's just another dimension
mhm.
the to add to the mix, which I keep looking for ideas as to how to expand the viewing base. Uh, Anybody is good, but it would be nice to have that 40 people. I am a big proponent of the alumni at school, an alumni association. I think that we do a very, very poor job of dealing with alumni at Hanover High School, and anything that I can do to promote it, I will do that. And this has the potential for certainly being one of those.
That would be cool. That'd be very nice. I mean, clearly it's right up your alley. I mean, in terms of, are you not an echo in both Mike's head and mine, and probably Deb's as well? I mean, we're kind of regurgitating what we learned 50 years ago.
And
And it's,
Carl, what year were you?
I was 75 with Deb, and I think that those who graduated earlier, like yourself and ourselves, it was such a pivotal time. When we go back and look at charts, whatever you want to look at, I'm in health. So you look at obesity curves, we look at the economy, when was gold taken off, all these things. It was clearly a time in which it changed dramatically. We kind of all know that. We lived in kind of a, I don't know about ideal, but a pretty safe environment for a long period of time. Those of us who, at Hanover High and so on. So I mean
And
that
I can't speak to the council the way Bill does, because it was really only sort of starting when I was there. But the kind of indicators that I look at is that the positions in towns, whether town moderators or officials, like Deb was for so many years, um, those did not be that difficult to fill, and people thought it was kind of an honor to hold those positions. And nowadays, the churn in sort of lower level elected and appointed officials, particularly anyone who has anything to deal with the actual administration of elections, uh, is it's vast, and uh, we're losing literally centuries, if not eons, of institutional knowledge and expertise in running elections.
hmm hmm So it's very easy for us to jump into it right now. What do you think? Deb, I actually forgot your background in terms of you work at in Mass. Was it Amherst or was in
Yeah,
local
Amherst, Lexington, and Montague. Yep.
that it kind of speaks to your father's influence on both you guys and your whole family. I mean, you ended up at different parts, but you're both government. Um, that
Our
also is
mother was Hanover Town Clerk.
all right. We got a slam dunk. You guys couldn't get out no matter what.
So don't discount her influence.
Okay, there you go. I didn't know her. I didn't know your dad either. Um, but what do you think? Mike, Deb, and Bill, should be some things that would be, I mean, I don't want to make it so academic or coming in for a lecture. The importance is about connecting, so you leave it a little bit open-ended. But what do you think are some big points that we can sort of put out before the speaker saying, this is what we're going to cover, and it's open to all sorts of, so it's, or do you feel having it more defined and more, lack of a better word, academic is better because people can come and they know what they're going to listen to?
I think just, one posing a question of what about Hanover led you down the path towards a career in public service?
That's excellent. But I have your answer for you and Mike. It's your parents.
Well, although I just read an article in the Valley News in the last week that they've got a 14-year-old running governor in Vermont.
We just lost you.
Yeah, you're still breaking in and out, Mike.
Yeah. Uh, okay, well, we've now done three different microphones, so I'm thinking maybe it's something to do with the
Sit
internet
forward.
connection.
Just sit forward.
Hello,
That's, are you
can you
talking
hear
about
me now?
Yes,
the
it's better. It is
14-year-old
actually
in
better.
Vermont?
Yes, yes, the 14-year-old who uh, announced, I guess, is filed for governor of Vermont. So they're clearly eons ahead of us poor pikers in New Hampshire. I can't remember whether he was actually from Norwich. I think may have been from another town.
How serious was it meant to be attention getting, or was it had some credibility to it?
Oh, he knows that he doesn't have a chance of winning, but um, he thinks he has things to offer. And frankly, I'd be interested in hearing from him um, what he's interested in accomplishing by running when he knows that he's not likely to win.
How precocious. Wow. Um, Excellent. Okay. Deb, that was a good question in terms of what about Hanover got you to follow your track. So Mike, specifically to you and your experience, part of it is like if you could hit some milestones you thought that were very important to kind of like, I mean, I do believe it's in your blood, your DNA, as they would say, given your context of Upper Valley and parents. But having that and now looking to the world, kind of what you said, what would you pick out from your past and go, there's a few things. This is, because you're going to set your general context. This is why we contacted
Well,
you.
a couple of things. One, there are advantages to coming from a small town where large numbers of people know each other, and in particular, know who their local elected officials are. Um, I think I knew, all of the town legislators growing up, whether they were Democrats or Republicans. And back then, there were both Democrats and Republicans in the legislature from New Hampshire. And campaigns were sort of manageful and meaningfully silent. So there wasn't necessarily all that much difference between running for class president at Hanover High School and running for state representatives to represent Hanover. Somewhat similarly sized campaigns. Nobody was doing any TV. There wasn't social media back then. It was all sort of personal door-to-door knowledge. Um, and there were things in the high school. I mean, one of the things that I remember fondly, and Bill he remembers this kind of thing. We had a mock election for consul of Rome in ninth grade in our world history class, and I was one of the candidates. And I believe my year, the other candidate was Jenny Kemeny. And so that sort of all gave us a certain amount of kind of training for that. Um, uh, and we were encouraged to get involved, um, in particular by the fact that New Hampshire had its first in the nation primary that gave
Mhm.
gave us opportunities to contribute and participate at a whole different level. Um, there were little things that, the polling place, I don't know if it's still the case, was the high school. So when people came to vote, they came to the high school to vote. We
Mhm.
were all given a visual, this is what democracy is all about, and town meeting. I happened to turn 18 in December of my senior year in high school. So when town meeting was held, I think back then it was in late February, concurrent with um, the presidential primary. I got to go and vote on the floor of town meeting on both the town budget and the school board budget. And I vividly recall being accosted on the floor of town meeting, which was held at Webster Hall, by the chairman of the English department at Hanover High School, who wanted to know what I was doing on the floor of town hall. And I replied that I was 18 and I was a registered voter and I'd lived in town about 16 years longer than he had. I was voting on his budget, and how did he want me to vote? And that just
A few good points. I can sort of see that. I mean, all right, now I see a greater influence in your life besides your parents. Your parents were unique. You had small town. We had, so I would say how I interpret that, small town, greater potency of our exposure to politics, but probably to anything. I think a relationship, let's say, with Bill and other teachers was a little more direct than, I mean, I came from a bigger school, and that wasn't the case. Uh, and then you throw in over that, first in the nation primary, we had everybody parade by our town. And it was kind of an our town aspect of politics that, of course, it happens this way. And then you had the town meeting that went on forever and on the radio.
we had two presidential candidates speak at Hanover High my senior year. It was kind of a joke, Pat Paulson, hilariously funny, and the other was Vance Hartke, a senator from and you just don't that
Right, right.
The ability to participate in government um, in any small town in New Hampshire, politics was local. You expected to meet candidates. You expected to know them. I remember vividly my very first political action was when Big Jim Campion, Kevin Campion's grandfather, was running for the state legislature. And he got his family bus and all the neighborhood kids in Hanover piled on the bus. I was 5 and we drove to Lebanon. And right as you turned to go towards Riches and the A&W root beer and what's now the strip mall Central, they let us out of the bus and we walked up and down both sides of the road knocking on doors for Big Jim Campion, and that started my political career. Had nothing to do with my family.
It's funny that because just the other day I found on the table here, not planning to bring it to this, my Campion State Senate campaign button.
Wow. And by the way, I do hear you have an extraordinary political button collection.
It's too large. Yeah. I'm at the point now where I can't put anything more on display because there's no more display space to put stuff out. But there are other large collections. Pardon, Deb?
I said it covers walls.
Wow. Wow, interesting. So, any reflections, Bill?
I've got, let's say, 10 bulletin boards of political pins. Am I in contention?
Yeah, I'm thinking.
You're absolutely in contention. We all either need museums or our own houses because eventually you just, or like museums or the
Michael,
displays.
sit forward. We're not hearing you.
Yeah, you gotta stay forward, Mike.
Okay.
Right? I don't know why, but you do.
We'll
get used to
go along with what Mike was saying earlier, and we all were, about how people came to town. Story is that my student teacher came in one day as he was leaving, and he left me a wrapped present on my desk, which was obviously going to be a tie. And I didn't know quite how to get excited about this tie, but he was walking out the door, and I thought, well, I'll just avoid it and duck it. But he waited at the door. Aren't you going to open the package, Mr. Murphy? And oh yeah, yeah, that's absolutely what I was going to do. And I opened the package, and it was an ugly tie.
Oh,
Uh, but on the tie was a real, not a facsimile, a real political pin for all the major candidates going back to 1948, I think it was. And I said, I don't know exactly the value of these things, but I think they have value. And so I'm reluctant to take this gift. He said, nope, they're duplicates. You can have them. I said, okay, but I'm going to wear it. And so I started wearing a political pin. So if I have a Republican pin on, somebody comes up to me and says, don't you wear pins for Democrats? I say, I'm an equal opportunity recipient. You got a pin that you'll give me because I don't want to take control of, I got to remember to return this.
yeah.
So the kids started. So I got a Democratic pin. What about the Republicans? And with all of the people coming through town that we've been talking about, that made pretty good. And it was kind of neat that the kids were, Mr. Murphy, I got this for you. Mr. Murphy, here's this for you. You going to wear it? And then the I did say, do you only wear political pins? I said, I'll wear any pin that you get me. And that almost got me into trouble. Well, it did get me in trouble later on. Uh, but so I started getting causes pins and the travel pins and all of that sort of stuff. Uh, they made me a pin for David Duke. Let's see what that.
Yeah.
So I
Was
wore
it
it.
vote for the crook? It's important.
It was a homemade, where was he? Louisiana or Mississippi?
Louisiana.
So I wore it under my lapel, but I wore it.
Well, another question would be, what have the values that you acquired growing up or graduating from Hanover High School, what values have you carried with you into the current political climate or the climate that you worked in?
We've got
Good idea.
serious problems with that as far as in America. We've got serious problems because I taught uh, civics government the first semester, and the negativity which the students have towards American government is really disturbing. And I sort of have it as my goal that I want to have kids leave my class and the school with a positive outlook that it is a good government, 250 years of worthy experimentation, and we can do it. But it is fighting an uphill battle. What I did was I said, I'm going to show West Wing. And so I show West Wing, or I did each Monday, and it would have a theme and we would talk about it. But I wanted them to see that it didn't have to be as negative as it is today. And yeah, I made some progress, but I didn't make all the progress that I would like because it is so negative.
What do you want? These are the kids that chose the Bears as their mascot.
Yeah.
And back to our era, there was a lot of negativity. I mean, we had the war going on, and people who didn't want to, get drafted, and we did trust the Supreme Court.
Michael, every time you turn your head to your left, we lose you. Don't turn your head to the
No
left.
kidding. So turn to the right. You can hear me now.
Yep.
Maybe, I don't know. Um, so there was still some of that. There was still a belief that we would persevere and get through it. And I think that's what I don't sense as much of today.
I think you're right.
I
I think
agree.
you're right.
And
Bill?
It's attacking basic institutions. The Constitution is sacrosanct. Not anymore.
Yeah,
Uh, it is what the people in power want to make it. There are certain things that just sort of jump out at me. I remember, I think it was Vance, and he said, "Well, yeah, some of the stories I made up were false, but that doesn't make any difference. It's the story." Well, yeah, it does make a difference. Uh, and this is weighing heavy on me from comments when Mike talked about the Valley News. In the Valley News, Manchester Union Leader, I try to put the daily newspaper edited version up on the bulletin board in the
mhm,
hall so I get the kids. The Libertarian Party of New Hampshire said that it was, I'm not quoting them directly, but justified in killing Volzinski, the guy that wants an income tax in the state. How can anybody in a public democratic institution put that down? That's just
I agree.
boggles
Right.
my mind.
And
And
public
to give you
censure.
another example of the sort of the difference, I know that there were times back when my father was in the general court that he would carpool down Concord with one of the Republican.
No, we lost
We
you.
lost you. It was just getting good, Mike.
You
He
carpooled to
would
Concord.
carpool to Concord with Republican House members from Hanover.
Nice. Nice. Well, I think the idea that you have to get along with your opposition and you're human first and you can have this discussion has been lost. I mean, I think that's pretty clear. Supposedly, not that I am fond of LBJ, but he had stories that, he'd have people, his opposition over for dinner and so on and so forth. And even the Kennedys would, whatever. But I'm sure I just like the idea, whether it was true or not. So, those are important points. I mean, this,
But don't lose the factor that a lot of people elected Trump. There are basic core problems with our society right now, and they need to be addressed. And we're doing a poor job of doing that.
on that vein of thought, Bill, is like if without going on too long, a list of the core problems, and then that might be a good launching point for talking about that. Again, not saying you have to have any, I'm sure you have an encyclopedic list that's going to come out right now, but I think that if we can work in a few of them into this conversation, I think it's probably pretty important. I mean, so it's all right. What are the top few of those ideas, Bill?
Well, I think that the disparity in wealth is a serious issue. It's a it's a disparity. You could take New Hampshire as I and when I get on my horse. There are other things, but let me take New Hampshire for a moment. What they're doing to education, what they are doing to the schools is that they are trying to, well, they have passed legislation. They passed legislation. The latest one is you can go to any school you want to, and you can take money with you to that new school from the state. And that new school can be a private school. It can be a religious school. It doesn't make any difference. And I would say that what is happening is that you are just reinforcing your tribe, so that if you get the public school, I think has been the formative agent for a united country of disparate backgrounds. And now what you're saying is put them into their own tribes so that they can argue their own factor. So that gets me upset. I get upset. I have to be careful now what I'm saying. I get upset because of the disparity in schools. Hanover High School is an exceedingly, when I say wealthy, privileged school. And then
Yep.
you go up the river and you go to Orford, Piermont, Woodsville, take your pick,
It's completely
and
different.
they got a problem. And with the tax structure the way it is in New Hampshire, it relying upon the local property tax, you're just prolonging that situation. Uh, I think I am weakening. Does anybody, if I say March intensive, do they know what I'm talking about?
I do now. You mentioned it before. We just talked to Sandy Anderson, and she went all through the people who just came back this last week, I think it was.
Yeah. March intensive is 4 days a week in which classes are suspended and the special offerings are made. There are trips, there are community service projects, there are in-class um offerings in the school, and I'm, it's going to continue. It is going to the good clearly outweighs the bad. But one of the things that if you look at what we're offering, we can do that because we have the resources to do it, which I don't think very many schools.
Hmm.
Matt Prince, who is the director of it, Hanover grad, Hanover social studies teacher, will point out that Windsor is trying something along that line as well. But the offerings are more extensive, I think, and I don't know whether to say better. I can say better because I'm a Hanover High School supporter, but
Mhm.
you can argue about that.
Mhm.
But it is that is an example of, I say, look at the state. Here I don't have the data, but I think I'm accurate. Look at the data and what has happened to each one of the major cities in the state. What happened at Concord is that Bow separated because they had the plant, the coal burning electric plant that could support a superior system, a superior school system. Um, Bedford separated off from Manchester because they were a well-to-do community who could do, they thought, have more opportunities to do more things with their kids. Sauhegan is similar for the Nashua area. There may be a little bit further out. There are what is happening is I'm getting wound up, so be careful. Um, I grew up in Erie, Pennsylvania, and I go there and I take a look at the city when I was there was 150,000 people, four public high schools, one parochial school. Today there is one public high school, a large parochial school, and uh, a magnet school. Uh, they're always being criticized. If you go into the suburbs, oh, they've got some good schools out there. And why do they have good schools out there? Because the people with means left the city and set up their own districts. And I see that happening in broadly in New Hampshire with the separations that going, with the state program that says that we're not going to give you any money uh, to the public. Twice there has been a Claremont case, twice it has gone to the Supreme Court, and twice the Supreme Court says you're not adequately funding education in New Hampshire. And just a day or two ago, uh, oh, I should stop because I let somebody else talk. Uh, just a couple of days ago, the legislature passed, and I think that the governor signed that says that we only have to provide support for core academic classes. We do not have to support the nurses, the administrators. There was a special carve out for special needs kids. But again, it's a ducking of the general issue of
And I just point out that the Chief Justice of the New Hampshire Supreme Court from Hanover, in fact, grew up in the house next to the one that I grew up in, although not at the same time.
the Chief Justice and the Attorney General are both currently at Hanover High School grads.
Well, here's hoping I have a chance to talk to them. That would be great. So let me just wrap up your theme here. So basically, you went from disparity. So from your core values that need to be addressed is the wealth disparity. You used Hanover as an example. Basically, it sounds like that was created from the property tax mechanism, or the taxation method for New Hampshire in general, created these isolated wealthy towns that could do what they want to do. And kind of the opposite, those who didn't have it, well, they missed out and they have a far inferior. But that ties with um, the division of people in general, back to Mike's point. Is that correct? And the idea of why we are not coming together of different tribes, we now get more and more intense into our own
I, I,
ideology.
I will take I think that what is happening is that there's disparity of wealth. The disparity in wealth comes from the consolidation of business and industry, that it gets consolidated into a few monopolistic business who can sort of set the tone, and as pointed out numerous times, the people who make the decisions get very wealthy, and the people who are working on the line, if they have a job, are being discriminated against. And therefore, is it any wonder that they are complaining? Is it any wonder that they think the system is rigged against them? And then there are the people who are being. I am a believer and a fear of AI. There was a radio program on this past week, and I almost called in to say it was about do you fear artificial intelligence? And I say to my colleagues at school, you had better be aware, because down the line, your job is uh, in jeopardy. It's in jeopardy currently
Mhm.
because you have the growth of charter schools. If you have the charter schools, they're taking kids out of the public school system. I can't believe that all the charter schools are being taught basic academic courses by qualified people. What they're doing is they're going online and getting canned courses to teach the kids subjects that they may not feel as comfortable with. If they can go to the Khan Academy or VLAX, I think it's the state of New Hampshire's uh, program, uh, and get credit for doing that, it's much cheaper to do it that way. And down the line, I think that schools, if they're not already doing it, will say, uh, turn on the TV monitor, and we're going to have the government class piped into you. And if you do that, uh, then you can hire an inexpensive aide to turn the thing on and off. And I think that there are things that are happening right now, but I think it's going to get worse.
I would only note that just this last week, when Melania introduced the humanoid AI robot at the White House, it was a robot that was designed to teach. Um, we have no idea how good or bad it was. I suspect probably very good.
Hmm. That's an interesting
Somebody-
tangent to go forward with, to see what, that's almost a separate topic.
Somebody's gonna have to grade all the blue books because the teachers that are left are
No,
gonna
they're
take
not.
away the computers and make
Oh.
people write their stuff down.
Uh, what's going to happen is there's complaints that get me upset. The first complaint is that there's not uniformity in the instruction. And I want to say, great, but no, we need uniformity. Well, get your robot to come in. And then they say, why? I had a kid talking to the other teacher that I share a room with, that he was upset that he got such and such a grade on the paper, and the other kid in the class got a far better. You take those grades and papers, and you just send them off, and they run it through the AI corrector, and they'll spit it back at you. So
But supposedly
And
now,
the other point that Bill made that I think is when the consolidation and the power into the hands of a few, we're seeing that also tremendously on the news media side. When you look back to our era, Hanover had a very active daily newspaper, and we had a weekly newspaper, both of which offered very good coverage of things that were going on in town. And now, you can get the Valley News in about 5 minutes max, and that's if you're really reading everything. And people are not getting their news from the places they used to get news from, most of which were local. They're getting it from national or sometimes even international sources that are delivering to the vast majority and delivering content that their owners want.
right, right. Um, so do you see any sort of addressing that will change the course of that? Or are you assuming that that's the inevitable and it's going to reach its crisis point? Or so in part it's to hear the
Well,
issues, and in part it's
let's-
hopefully to provide a
Yeah,
spark of hope.
let's get back to what's gonna be the role of the people who are gonna be speaking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What are the questions you want to be framing to them? I mean, that's why we're here, right?
Yeah, I think that is this for everybody. I think part of the questions are what has changed? What was like, what has changed? I think that's really, we kind of all have a piece of that, but those that we're speaking to obviously have a very concentrated experience in politics and social aspect in that regard. What has changed? What do we think we can do is there a little bit of something that we can do personally? So it's reporting, it's encouraging, but the words of what possibly could do, if there was any suggestions, are not just, hey, here's an idea. It's because it's from Mike or the Chief Justice or the State Attorney General or these other people that hopefully we can get to talk. They're saying, here's what I see, here's what I feel, this is what we could do. That would be like the simple end of it. Deb?
Sure. I mean, people coming up with concrete ideas for something that might result in a positive outcome.
I agree. I agree. That would
I
be
would recommend that when you sort of advertise this on the side page or whatever, that we include sort of the questions so that people can think about them in advance and not sort of have them sprung on them.
Mhm.
They have to have answers, but if they know sort of ahead of time, these are the things we're going to be discussing. I think that would keep the discussion
Yep.
focused and on track.
Yep. I think it's a good idea. My questions ahead of time. How about if I could pick your brains? I mean, I'll come up with my questions. Bill already listed a few. You have my email, so I hear the questions I would love to hear aired. Boom. And we can call those together because that will then be part of our itinerary for what people can come to listen to. And we'll just have a few anyway, so it doesn't get to be so long to bring other people together and talking about this. I think the point of reference one's experience, especially yours, Mike, is really pretty profound in making those connections. Things have changed. This is how I saw them. Now you live in Oregon. I lived in the Northwest for a while, and Oregon is an amazing state. So now you're in a whole different place, far from Hanover, but maybe another small town. I don't know. No.
Portland.
Portland.
Oh, you're in Portland. Ah, I knew Portland
Just
pretty well.
just about the but I basically tell people that if you swap rain and snow, they're kind of the same thing.
For sure. Oh yeah. Different suicide rate in Portland and Seattle though than Hanover for sure. Um, at least when I was there, it was a big deal. Um, so is
Uh,
that, go ahead.
I- I'm not saying that that's a huge issue now, but I could be wrong.
Oh, good. I'm hoping it's not a big issue now. That'd be good if they got over that, something replace it. Um, oh, is that pretty good for our basic itinerary to make it for a lot larger audience? And so, um, anything you could funnel my way. And I would like is it next week too soon? But I find that getting things out too far, yeah, it allows people to get involved and know about it, but it hasn't really served that. I find almost, go ahead, Deb, please.
You have the email addresses of other folks that you or contact information for other folks that you want to participate? Because I think throwing the questions out to them in advance and saying, what are we missing here? How do we connect this to Hanover
Right.
and our backgrounds and what can we take from it
Okay, I
little
would say
kernels to make a positive difference and have them give you feedback before the first one takes place so you can kind of continue to refine the questions.
okay. In addition
And
to,
this is a really minor thing, but it'd also be useful when people come onto the Zoom if they rename themselves to include their location after their name, so we know who's in New Hampshire, who's in Vermont, who's in Oregon, who's whatever. We might have a sense of how diverse the group is that we're talking to.
okay,
And
that's
their
good.
year of graduation.
Yeah,
Deb Radway, 79 or 75, Massachusetts.
right, right. Okay, so go ahead, Bill.
I'm trying to think of what might be a draw. I have a mailing list for retired teachers, and I'll this is just jumping into my head at the moment. If we had uh, 10, 20, 30 faces on there of familiar faces from the past, that might be a draw to get people to.
Absolutely.
That
Bring
would
in
be.
Frank Toms from Mexico.
Frank Toms would be one of the first ones. And
So,
he would be interesting. He's got I don't know whether it's a sixth book that he's written, and the last one is a autobiography, which I haven't seen, but says a lot of us are in there. So you might be in his book.
I don't know Frank Toms. Point me in that direction. Was that on the list that you gave me, both you guys? It was? Yeah. All right, I'll follow up.
Oh no, he's not.
He was a social studies teacher in the 60s and 70s.
Okay.
And he has his books focus upon education, but he was a visiting teacher in Russia during the Gorbachev years. So
Wow.
that's always an intriguing topic for him, as is, oh, it's great down here in Mexico, Murph. You really ought to come.
Always good to hear that.
THOMS.
One more time.
THOMS, Tom's.
Right.
Okay.
Frank.
Frank.
Um, okay, so that spoke to having more people show up. But so, for instance, for next time, two thoughts. Kind of, Mike is kind of the core part for the draw, and his listening to what he's had to say, his experience with these things. If we have 40 or 50 people on, I think we've all experienced that. There's a great chance of it getting a kind of chaotic. You sort of have to make sure everybody's muted and do all this. Otherwise, the dog in the back starts driving the whole conversation in a way. Um, that's the first thought. The second thought is the degree we get some of these, especially the teachers and so on. I'm thinking, Bill, you might want to be the one that, because you're going to have the greatest perspective of who these people are. Whereas for me, I have a narrow periscope of who I know relative to this. So I don't want to dismiss anybody, but you might be able to say, for instance, you know, Frank, you might want to speak to this. I wouldn't know that, and a few other people. Um, and
What
I
did
would say,
Sandy,
go
what
ahead,
did Sandy Anderson say to you?
Andy. Yeah, we
Was
talked
she
this.
excited about what you're trying to do?
Yeah, she wanted to be on more, and so the initial idea was just interviewing people, and getting the connection. This is the first of a special little kind of vein of thought that is outside of our class. Um, so it's slightly different, but she got back to me afterwards, and they really enjoyed it personally, and I think everybody else who was on that one enjoyed it as well. So
And
this launches in another direction, and so you're. So I'm saying, Murph, you know how to recognize people from around the world that of our diaspora of Hanover High. But anyway, I can cross that bridge later. I'm happy to do whatever, but I won't be able to recognize these people in their value that you would have and Mike would have, certainly because he's older. Um, so I might pass it over to you at certain times, to call on to make it a little more
and,
interactive.
and was a social studies teacher for a number of years.
Who?
I know Andy's husband, Mr.
Reeve,
Reeves, as I
Reeve,
knew
right,
him.
right,
Reeve
right.
Uh,
Williams.
Reeve Williams.
Yeah.
Reeve Williams, sorry.
Yep. Yeah, he was on as well.
Um,
It was kind of a co-interview, both of them. They're both characters. She's now the cookie lady, Upper Valley cookie lady, um, so to say.
I'm gonna
Uh,
have to take off soon.
okay, yeah, no, I
Um,
want to close this down, but so I would say right now, email the questions. We'll put them together. The thoughts of next week versus actually it can't be next week. It has to be 2 weeks out. I think that's a good enough time to put the word out, see who will show up. Any thoughts? Good idea.
Well, bless your heart for trying this. It's good that you do.
Yeah.
Pat in the
Well,
back.
it's gonna take a couple of it's gonna take a couple of sessions
I
to
will.
settle.
No, it is. This is nothing's easy. Yeah, right. Well, I sort of feel impelled to do this, Bill, actually. I mean, it's one of those things, if somebody didn't do it, somebody should do it. Okay. All right. So I'll expect to hear back from you. I'll put starting in both Facebook groups, and then we can get other emails to say this is the time and date. And I guess we'll choose this time for 2 weeks out on a Sunday.
let me just
That makes
double check my calendar. I think I'm still.
Yeah, let's start with Mike. Of course.
So we're talking the 12th?
We're talking
Yeah, the
the
12th
Yep.
will work.
All right. At 2 o'clock. Are you good, Mike? Because that'll be 11 o'clock your time.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, we got that down then. Okay. Thank you all for today. I think it is the beginning. It will take a while, but I think it has to happen.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
See you all. Thanks, Deb. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Mike.